So we'll start recording and you're good to go. We see your slides. They're not in
Great.
present yet, but I'm sure you're working on that. So
All right. Can you see them in presenter mode now?
I do.
All
Yes.
right. Great.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to talk with you very quickly today about AI and accessibility and automated speech recognition. My name is Shelby Watson from the University of Mississippi Libraries. I'm here with my colleague, Abby Norris Davidson. And we're going to go ahead and jump right in and tell you a little bit about the work that I, and especially Abby, has been doing for the last several years. Abby, would you like to give us some background?
Yeah, thank you. So our project is actually a series of grant-funded projects that started in 2020 through the Lyrasis Catalyst Fund. And we were interested in looking at the use of AI or automated speech recognition to transcribe some of our digital archival content, because we had a backlog of audio and visual content that needed to be transcribed, and the initial team that was working with this content was really small. It was 3 people back in 2020. So our first project, we wanted to focus on developing a workflow to caption videos that were posted on archival or library websites. And we wanted to be able to build a workflow that people could execute without significant cost to themselves or technical skill. We didn't want to have a ton of coding involved. And so through that project, we developed a workflow that we'll talk about in a second, but we realized at the end of that project that the work was far from done, which was where this project that we're presenting on today came in, and Shelby joined the team. So from 2023 to 2024, we focused on assessing 4 different automated speech recognition tools to see how they perform on various archival collections, especially Mississippi-focused ones. So our sample for this project was 105 videos equaling 60 hours of content from 3 oral history collections that were on our institutional repository, which is called eGrove. And represented in these collections were a variety of US accents, specifically though focusing on Southern accents, especially Mississippi, various demographics, so people of varying genders and races, and then audio qualities, because if you have ever worked with archival oral histories before, you know that it is not always quite as crystal clear as a modern podcast. And so that the ASR sometimes struggles with those.
Yes. So just to get our terms straight for everybody who has been or hasn't been involved in using ASR tools before, when we say ASR, automatic speech recognition, or sometimes automated speech recognition, what we're talking about is we're using these machine learning models to take spoken words and turn them into text. So this most recent project that we worked on looked at 4 different tools. 3 of them are commercial, 1 is free. Otter AI was one that we worked with. It's one that I've worked with previously when I've been doing research interviews. And it has a really nice editing interface, but as you'll see when we talk about some of our results, we were a little bit disappointed with the output. It had our highest word error rate compared to any other tool that we used. Panopto is a commercial transcription service primarily for educational audiences. It's what our university contracts with to caption videos that get uploaded to our learning management system, which is Blackboard. And then Rev was one that was also used during the Lyrasis Catalyst Fund project. It's a commercial ASR transcription, very large, very popular. It was actually our highest accuracy across almost all of our videos. But it is a little bit trickier to use. It doesn't have a built-in editing interface. And then Whisper is an open, I won't say open source because it's, we can't see what it was trained on, but it is free to use. We ran it through Python. I believe it can also be run via command line, and that one does require a little bit of coding knowledge to use, not a ton. You can run it with about 4 lines of code. But that one was also fairly impressive in terms of accuracy.
So as we tested these 4 different tools, this was the workflow we used. We were fortunate enough to be able to hire 3 students to help us with this project. So we had each of the students focus on a different tool, and then Shelby worked with both Whisper and our Panopto instance. So we would upload the AV file to each of the ASR tools, so we were able to have a direct comparison across all 4 platforms. Once the transcript and the caption files were generated, those would be added to a box folder that was centrally located. Shelby and one of our students who is a computer science student built a cleaning script in Python so that each of the files would be stripped down and get rid of things like timestamps or speaker names, just so that we could have kind of the cleanest comparison files. We then had one of our students work on editing the transcripts to make sure it was 99% accurate, or as close as accurate to possible, to the actual video. And these were what we called our human edited transcripts. They were also our base comparison files and the versions that ultimately went onto the repository to accompany the video that was on eGrove. We then used a package called Jyware to compare word error rates. So with Jyware, we have our human edited transcription that is our most accurate version. And then we took the raw outputs from all of our various ASRs, so Rev, Whisper, Otter, and Panopto, cleaned those up, and then ran them across the manual transcript to compare word error rates. And then once that was complete and we were able to compare which of the tools had the lowest word error rate, we edited our final SRTs, which are the caption files that go into videos, and transcripts, which are the kind of more formatted Word documents that you think of when you download a transcript, and added those to the repository for all of our ultimately 27 videos, were what we were able to get human edited transcripts for.
So, I mean, you can imagine, because it's such a slow process, we were able to do 100 across machine edited versions, 27 with humans.
So as
Go
Shelby
ahead.
mentioned, Rev was our highest performing tool. That was also the tool that we landed on in the initial grant. So it was really interesting to kind of confirm that it was the best performing tool, even 4 years after we initially started using it. And we really identified 3 key areas that we liked it for. It was the accuracy. It had the lowest word error rate across all of the tools. The ease of use in uploading videos to the interface. You don't have to have any coding knowledge to input any videos into Rev, although as Shelby mentioned, actually editing the output is a little trickier because it doesn't have a built-in editing interface. And then also its ubiquity. It is used or recommended by many different institutions, peer institutions, including these 3 that are mentioned. I don't know if those are their top recommendations anymore, but they all do 3 still mention it on their accessibility websites.
One thing I'll also mention is cost. It is relatively inexpensive, although there is a cost associated with running it. Yeah. We've talked about word error rates a couple of times. I just want to throw that out there, what that is. It's a way to evaluate the accuracy of a transcript. So you take your reference, which is your real version, your correct version. And what you're looking for are words that are substituted, or things that have been inserted into the text that shouldn't be there, or words that are missing from the text that should be there. And you take the sum of those substitutions, insertions, and deletions, and you divide by the total number of words, and that produces a proportion, or in our case, we turn that into a percentage. And higher percentages are going to be less accurate. So higher percentages, more errors. And we calculated this using, like Abby said, Jyware or Gware, which is an open source Python package that's specifically designed to evaluate automatic speech recognition tools. They have a variety of metrics that you can use. Word error rate is relatively simple and quick to calculate, so that's what we used. So when we look across our 3 collections, we see varying word error rates. Some of these are better than others. Generally, when we're looking at ASR tools, we want it to be 10% or less. We didn't get there with any of our collections, but you can see some collections were 13%, and some collections were almost 40%. And some of that scales with audio quality, but we also saw some differences across demographic groups as well. To answer Orly's question, all of the content was in English, although a lot of it was with folks who had pretty thick Southern accents. We did see higher word error rates with men than with women. So women generally had lower word error rates than their male counterparts, but we also saw differences across race. And I'm going to let Abby talk about this for a second.
So as you can see, yeah, I won't go super into detail because I know we're running out of time, but in general, our white speakers in our videos performed much better than our Black speakers, with white women being the highest or best performing group and Black men having their voices be the lowest performing group across all of our different tools. So if you have any specific questions about this slide, you can ask it in the Q&A. We'll go to the next slide.
So to wrap up, we are continuing this work. We're continuing. Whisper has released some new models that we're evaluating. We're trying some different tools and some tools we've already used before. One of the things we're looking at specifically is we want better representation of some groups that we didn't have very many of in the last grant, including people who are non-binary or transgender, which we didn't have any of in the last grant. And we're now doing that with our current grant. I'm going to let the hosts answer that Q&A question. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A or the chat, or reach out to us. Here's our emails, and we hope that this was informative for y'all.